body, baby.
Hello guys, I really hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's so good to see you again. If you are new here, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and become part of the family by clicking on that red subscribe button. This is always a tongue twister, but askolapo. And if you are a returning subscriber, an oldie but a goodie, thank you so much for coming back again. Guys, Happy New Year, happy 2020, happy grabbing your goals and making them a reality. Happy New Decade. May your mental health thrive, may your physical health thrive, may your emotional health be stable. Listen, I'm wishing you all the very best for this year 2020. So now guys, today I'm bringing you guys something that I've been thinking of covering on my channel for a while now, and that is mental health. And so guys, today we are speaking about mental illness. So in my at my second attempt at filming this video, I went on my Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and I put a question on what people would like me to cover in this mental health segment. And the reason I did that was because I was just wondering whether what I'm covering is really what people want to hear about or what people want to find out about. So I was like, you know what? Let me put the ball back in people's court and let them decide what they want to see. And you guys, I have never been more astonished or shocked by people's responses to the question. Not even in like oh my god, people responded, but just the level of or just how much people don't know a lot about mental illness and what it is. And one of the major mental health illnesses that came up was depression and anxiety. But there are so many other mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, eating disorders, there's somatoform disorders, there is I think I'm forgetting, but there's such a variety of mental disorders that people are not aware of and that people do not really know about. So I just thought before we start with the chat of mental illness and what it is and what we should take away from it, I just thought I should read you guys facts about mental illness, because the one thing that really came up in the question that I asked of people, what issues people want me to cover about mental illness, was people just generally asking, what is mental illness? What is it? When we say somebody is mentally ill, are they faking it? Do they want attention from people? Are they just like literally lying to the masses about what's wrong with them? What exactly is mental illness, right? And you guys, this is such an important topic because we go around social media speaking about mental health. Take care of your mental health. Don't compromise your mental health for people. Your mental health comes first. If your mental health is not well, you're not going to be well. But people don't actually know what we mean by that, you know? And in 2019, mental health was one of the waves that sort of swept the earth. Everybody was going on about mental illness and nobody actually spoke about, or nobody actually, some people were just like, what are you guys on about? You guys love attention. What's mental health about? And yeah, so I thought I should take it from the top. This intro is far too long. It's literally at 5 minutes now. I thought I should take it from the top. First of all, mental health is just as important as your physical health. It's so easy for us to be like, listen, I've got flu, I'm not going to go to work, or call your boss, listen, I've got flu today, I'm not coming in, and they understand. But on the other coin is mental health, which people don't really give attention to, and people don't really take as seriously as they should, like they do all the other illnesses. And so I want us to speak about that. What is mental health? What is it about? What is it even to begin with? Okay. And the one thing that I want to say is that mental health is overall wellness, health and wellness of your mental state, right? A lot of things can temper with your mental health, such as depression, anxiety, where you're constantly thinking about certain things for too long, and that also affects how you then do things. So some people who actually suffer from mental illness struggle to go into work. They struggle to take on tasks because they give them anxiety. They struggle to take care of themselves. They stop bathing sometimes. They stop communicating with other people. They are just not well. Just like somebody who has a physical illness would stop going to work, would stop struggle with showering if their body is sore. Same thing goes for mental illness, if not worse, because mental illness is one of the things that people ignore, first of all, and people don't really believe you. If I come on here and I tell you guys I'm depressed, a lot of you are going to be like, you love attention, what. So I just want to speak about depression and probably touch a bit on anxiety, because those are the major things that came up. But I really want you guys to know that there are way more mental illnesses that I'm covering in this video, and that it would be really nice if you go and research on all the others that I've already mentioned. So if we are looking at depression, we have let me speak about the first mood disorder that we have, which is bipolar mood disorder. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people speaking about bipolar, or somebody saying they have bipolar. This is basically when somebody has a mood disorder, and what that means is that their mood swings between two poles, right? So bi meaning two and polar meaning pole. And so their mood is just swinging between the manic phase, which is when somebody is just overly excited. And I feel like mania is also one of the things that people don't speak about, but it's also part of mental illness, or bipolar mood disorder rather. And on the other hand, we have what we call the depressed state, or depression as we know it. And so if you guys want me to do another video speaking about mania and what it's characterized by, because I really don't want this video to be too long, comment down below and I will be more than happy to do that. But for today, I want us to speak about the one end of the bipolar spectrum, which is the depressed state, right? And so usually when somebody says I'm depressed, I've heard this a lot, where people just like saying, oh my God, I have depression. Oh my God, I have depression. And sometimes I feel like that takes away from people who actually suffer from a major depressive disorder, for example, as a mental illness that is characterized by too many other things other than the depressed feeling, or your mood being just depressed. And so I just want to give facts about what it takes for a person to be diagnosed, for example, with depression. For a person to be diagnosed with major depressive disorder, number one, they need to be depressed. They need to have a depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day. They need to have a markedly diminished interest or pleasure in almost all activities of daily living. And like I've mentioned, self-care is one of them. They just don't care about how they look or presenting themselves in a certain way. They generally don't care about work or school. They generally don't care about leisure or engaging in other areas of occupation. They need to have significant weight loss when not dieting, or weight gain, or decreased or increased appetite nearly every day. So some people can binge eat and gain weight as a result of depression, while some other people really lose weight and they stop eating. A slowing down of thought and a reduction of physical movement observable by others, not merely subjective feelings of relentlessness or being slowed down. So here's the thing, right? And this is another symptom that people usually don't speak about, is the slowing down of people's thought processes, or a reduction in their physical movement. So what happens is that people who suffer from depression, they almost like slow in their thinking, their thought processes is much slower, and they also have reduction in their physical movement. So instead of walking fast, you'll see them walking slow, and they're just not interested in the world in general. They have fatigue or loss of energy nearly every day. Feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt nearly every day. Diminished ability to think, obviously because the thought process is slow, or concentrate, or indecisiveness nearly every day. Recurrent thoughts of death or recurrent suicidal ideation. without a specific plan or a suicide attempt or a specific plan for committing suicide. So you guys, you can see that people who suffer from major depressive disorder actually have a pathology. They actually suffer from it, right? So it's not just about, oh my God, I'm so depressed, like I don't want to go to work, but there's other symptoms that accompany that illness that are very, very serious and that people usually take for granted and that people usually are not informed about. So as you heard, one of the major things that's characterized by depression is thoughts of death. So people who have depression usually think about death a lot, or they think about committing suicide, although they don't really have a plan on how they're going to do that, or they haven't even sometimes attempted to kill themselves. So where you find that people actually have a plan and they've sort of attempted to commit suicide, it may be that the depression is much more serious or it has advanced, and that person usually go for long-term hospitalization at a psychiatric hospital. But guys, I just want to speak about some of the questions that I've received from my Instagram regarding depression and what it is. I'm just going to go through them quickly. And I just hope that the information that I've already given you guys about what depression really is, and that it actually take a team of health professionals, including a psychiatrist, to make that diagnosis of depression. And people are put on medication. Sometimes it takes more than just antidepressants for a person with depression to recover. It takes, if people suffer, for example, from bipolar, they take epilim. And another thing that I just want to emphasize is that people who suffer from mental illness actually have a mental condition where there is sometimes a chemical imbalance in people's brains, right? So sometimes you find people saying, oh, people with mental illness are just attention seekers. And I mean, especially in the Black culture, guys, where we've literally lost so many people to depression, because when people speak up about their depression, we judge them, we victimize them, we tell them they love attention, we tell them that they should just snap out of it. That is really not fair, because if you think about somebody, for example, that just suffered a stroke and they come to you, you see that they have a stroke and you give them the attention that they need, you give them the help that they need. The reason people always struggle to come up when they have a mental illness is because society has made it such that when somebody says I have depression, then we're like, oh, there we go again with this depression. People love attention. But you really need to understand that it's characterized by a lot of things, a lot of symptoms that I've told you about, and also a chemical imbalance in the brain. So it's not like they want to be depressed or that they want their attention or that they want to be mentally ill because it's trendy and people are speaking about it these days. I really am grateful that people are speaking about it now, because back in the day, nobody spoke about it. It was the silent killer. And in fact, just some also fun facts about depression. It is said to be the second largest burden of disease in 2020, and we are right now in 2020. So right now, currently, depression is actually the second largest burden of disease. If you think about it, back in the day, HIV was, TB was, but we are now at a stage where mental illness is becoming a burden of disease and a silent killer in our society. Depression and the church, right? So, I mean, I grew up as a Christian girl. I personally do not have depression as a diagnosis. I have, however, experienced depression as a symptom of a state that I was in at that point in time, right? And so one thing that I know for a fact is that churches do not really speak vocally, or they're not really vocal when it comes to mental illness or what it's about, educating people what it's about, or speaking about it and just giving facts about it. And because they don't speak about it, they also don't raise awareness about what people need to do when they do experience that. Instead, churches are very big on, if you have depression, we are very big on pray about it, Some people will say you've sinned and that's why you feel the way that you do. Some people will say God is punishing you. But guys, honestly, truly, that is not true. And that is not fair. Like, that is not fair. Like, I'm also speaking as a mental health practitioner, right? Who have worked with people who have mental illness and people who suffer from mental illness. I've treated people in hospitals who struggle with depression, schizophrenia, eating disorders. I think the first thing we need to dismantle as a society, as the church, as communities, is that mental illness is not a choice. People do not choose to have mental illness. People do not choose to be depressed. They don't choose to be schizophrenic. They don't choose to be manic. They don't choose to be psychotic. Mental illness is an illness just like any other illness there is out there. So please, guys, this year going forward, let us refrain from telling people to pray about their mental illnesses. Let us refrain from telling people they need to fast and pray. It will go away. It will never go away. Mental illness is a lifelong disease that people live with, just like HIV. It is not curable, but it is manageable. So you can't really cure it by having antidepressants. It's something that keeps reoccurring. So that's why you see people, somebody who has a mental illness, whenever they face stress, and maybe another thing I should cover is what causes it. It can be genetic. It can be a stressful event that triggers people to go into a depressive state. So it's really a lot of things that can trigger people to go or to have mental illness. And so honestly and truly, guys, let's stop being unfair to people who suffer from mental illness by telling them that they need to pray about it, they need to fast about it, they have demons. Oh my God, I'm so tired of people saying mental illness, people who have mental illness have demons. If you feel from your own religious perspective that people who have mental illness have demons, that's fine, and let it be your own baby to deal with, but don't project that onto other people, and don't force your beliefs onto other people, because you are costing them the opportunity to actually seek medical help and medical medical intervention on their illnesses. Please, churches, we need to be very active when it comes to educating people about mental illness and what it is, and we need to be very active in telling people that they can go and seek medical help. A lot of people don't go seek medical help because they feel demoni, that someone have bewitched them. Guys, the many stigmas and misconceptions about mental illness that exist. And guys, I'm more than happy to address all of these in separate videos, because right now I feel like I'm rushing a lot of things. If you feel that you need more information on certain things that I've mentioned in the video, don't be shy to comment them down below. I'll do a full video on everything that I touch on if you want me to. And yeah, so that's the first thing that I want us to dismantle in 2020. Stop telling people they are ill and that people who have mental illness shouldn't have mental illness. It's not fair. It's not fair if somebody has depression to tell them they can't feel the way. Be strong. Comments like "be strong," you'll be fine, you'll get over it. You'll be fine. Of course they'll be fine, but you'll get comments like "you'll get over it," or "oh, get over it." Guys, that is honestly and truly not fair. Like, that is not fair. Imagine if you are sick with like a migraine, or you have high blood pressure, or you have diabetes, and somebody says to you, snap out of it, or just you like get out of it, like pray yourself out of it. Like, let's stop using religion to block people from experiencing what they need to experience, but also block people from seeking the medical help that they need and deserve. Stop it, honestly. Okay, the second question that I have here is, how do you deal with people saying having a mental illness is a choice? I just addressed that now. People need to stop doing that. Having mental illness is not a choice. Just like you don't choose to have flu, just like you don't choose to have a headache, just like you don't choose to have a stroke, high blood pressure, diabetes, just like you don't choose to have shingles and all these other physical illnesses that we give attention to. People with mental illness do not choose to have mental illness. And if you have mental illness yourself and you have people who say that, I think I mean, it's very hard to ignore such comments, but I think you really need to be maybe an activist for your own mental health or for your own mental illness, and just educate people. I think a lot of times people say such things because they are not well educated about certain things, and so they go around saying, oh, people who have depression just need to grow a tough skin. This is life. Life is what it is. So you can be an activist, or yes, for mental illness, and just do your bit in educating people about that. I mean, you can also refer them to this video that I'm creating right now. How do you deal with depression and stress? I think first of all, you need to find and seek and find medical help. I don't think depression is something that you can manage by yourself. I mean, of course, depression as a symptom can be managed by yourself. For instance, like I said, I've gone through the pits in life, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm feeling depressed. And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to have 3 days where you are just sad about something, or you're really finding it very hard to come out of something. It does not necessarily warrant a major depressive disorder, for example, as a diagnosis. But you are feeling sad. And one of the symptoms that I've read out loud, the first symptoms was that you need to be feeling sad for a prolonged period of time, nearly every day, for about 2 weeks, where you really aren't getting any other emotion than being sad. And that's when you can actually go and get depression diagnosed, clinically depressed. And one thing that people need to know is that once a person has mental illness, you can't undiagnose them. So for example, with HIV, for example, if somebody is HIV positive, they will be HIV positive for the rest of their life. So what I'm basically trying to say is that to people who don't have major depressive disorder as a diagnosis, refrain from saying you're depressed casually, because you are actually costing people who are actually depressed and need medical attention. You're costing them, because now people start thinking, oh, this person said they were depressed and then they were fine. People can go in and out of depression. That's another thing that you need to know. So how do you then deal with it? Seek medical help. You really can't do it by yourself. You really need a team of medical experts, such as the psychiatrist who will prescribe medication to take for you to deal with the depression, occupational therapists who will help you with your daily occupations if you feel like you can't go back to work, or that you can't deal with a stressful environment because people are looking at you funny. An occupational therapist is really great in advocating for people with mental illness. You need physio sometimes to help you with physical activity so that your brain is much more healthier. You need the psychologist. So I think that's how you cope. As far as stress is concerned, I think you really need to prioritize. And sometimes we stress about things that do not really deserve our stress. Like, especially last year, that's one thing that I learned, that sometimes as people, we stress about certain things that don't deserve us to be stressing over. For example, you can stress about family, you can stress about people knowing your business or people doing things to you. Sometimes you need to prioritize. As far as if you're stressing about schoolwork, for example, prioritize what's important, and also work bit by bit instead of leaving things for last minute. But also when it comes to other people, you need to learn who deserves a yes, who deserves a no, and a no that is not even backed up with an explanation, just a no, and who deserves an explanation. Sometimes we stress about explaining ourselves to people who just deserves a no or a yes or a I don't know, and that's that. So prioritizing, I think, really helps when it comes to managing stress. And also other practical things like physical exercise, finding a hobby, because it then helps you to not focus on stressing about one certain thing. Another question I got, what is depression? I described that right at the beginning of the video. The other question, what to do when someone you know and love needs professional help but refuses? I think this one is a tricky one. I'm sure we know of people that we're like, Wena, you're not okay, you need professional help, but they don't want to. And the first thing I think that one can do is to normalize their feelings. Normalize their feelings. Sometimes, guys, people are depressed, people are manic, they have mental illness, they're psychotic, but they're so afraid to come up and seek help because, number one, there's what we call stigma, the attitudes that we as society and communities have created around people with mental illness. So the first thing, normalize their feeling. Let them know that it's okay to feel the way that they do. It's okay for them to be sad and depressed. It's okay. And let them know that it's not something that they can ignore. It's not something that they have sinned and that's why they have what they have. It's not something that they have done. It's not because they've done something, and it's not that they deserve what they're going through, you know? Normalizing their feelings, for me, I mean, it's very important. I've seen this even in treatment where if you're seeing somebody and they're very closed in, once you start normalizing their situation, for example, I understand that you're feeling sad and what, those kind of statements make people understand that they're not alone. Number two, if you feel that this person needs professional help and that it's actually becoming dangerous for themselves and also for people around them, you can call the police, who will then take them into a psychiatric hospital. If you feel that this person is becoming a danger to themselves, for example, if somebody is cutting or they're attempting suicide or they, get them to a hospital if you can, a general hospital. And then at the hospital, you can actually explain what's going on with the person, and they will then refer the person to a psychiatric hospital. And then sometimes people are just, like I said, they don't want to seek help because we create barriers for them to do that. I would go as far as finding pamphlets for them. If you think they are struggling from depression, for example, finding pamphlets for them that on depression, if making them watch YouTube videos of people who behave similar to them so that they can actually see their own behavior and how detrimental it can be in the long run. And hopefully that person is able to come to a point where they realize that they need help. But if push comes to shove, referring them to a general hospital or a GP and then explaining to the GP what's going on, then they refer to a psychiatric hospital. Psychiatric hospitals have the right to take in people via police because, again, if people are a harm to themselves or those around them, then it becomes the responsibility of the state to actually take them in for treatment. And they are admitted as involuntary mental health care users. Overcoming issues of low self-esteem or confidence. I think the first place to start is to identify where those feelings are coming from. I think that's very important. Sometimes we feel, for example, anxious. If I'm feeling anxious, for example, I need to trace back where my anxiety is coming from, because if I'm not able to identify where that is coming from, then you're not able to deal with what you are seeing, the symptom, which is the low self-esteem or having no confidence. What's really important to me is that people understand why they are feeling the way that they are feeling. So, for example, if you have no confidence or if you have low self-esteem, take time to yourself, to sit with yourself and to actually identify where is it coming from. Sometimes, and I was telling this to my mother, that, when we were growing up, our parents, I know my mom used to compare me to other children around me because I was a very different child. I was never at home. I was always out playing at people's houses. I'd leave home 7 a.m. I'd come back 7 p.m. Guys, I was a problematic child. Do you understand? And my mom would always tell me, Tumi, you're not like this child. You're not like that child. If a child does not have, what's the word? If a child does not have good resistance, that's not what it's called. You have a word for it, where a person is able to resist a certain thing or a certain incident. If a child does not have that, it results in a child having low self-esteem or having no confidence, because your whole life you were compared to other people. And so you never come to a place of realizing that you are actually good enough. So the first thing I would say, find out where it comes from. And another thing that you need to perhaps look into is not comparing yourself to other people as far as self-esteem is concerned. Sometimes self-esteem comes from feeling that you are not adequate and that you are not enough. And sometimes you feel like that because you're busy comparing yourself with other people and wanting to become like other people. Another thing is that find something you are good at. Right? Once you have something that you're good at, you're able to identify something that you're good at, work on that thing, excel in that thing. And what that does is that it tells your mind that, oh, I am actually good at something, and it starts boosting your self-esteem and consequently boosting your self-confidence. Another practical thing about self-confidence that you can do, I used to be a child that spoke to the mirror, darlings, and I would literally just sit in front of the mirror and I would, present. I used to be a YoTV presenter back in, not literally, but like in my head, I was a YoTV presenter. And I was never a YoTV presenter in real life, but my mirror made me a YoTV presenter. And I think a lot of that helped me to boost my self-confidence, my self-esteem, and to just know that I'm enough. Like, do things that you're good at, because the more you do things that you're not good at, the more you tell yourself you're not good enough, and the more you have low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And so, yeah, just finding that one thing that you're good at, master that thing, be excellent at that thing. And also, another thing that we perhaps don't speak about, surround yourself with people who tell you that you're enough, who tell you that you're good at something, who tells you that they appreciate you. Because sometimes our lack of self-confidence and low self-esteem actually stems from the fact that people around us tell us all the time that we are bad people, we are pathetic, will never amount to anything. So always surround yourself with people who are about you, who are about your energy, who are about making sure that they boost your energy by telling you good things about yourself. The other one that I have, healthier and more sustainable coping mechanisms for depression and anxiety. Let me speak about anxiety because I think I've touched on depression. The first one with anxiety, you must always be able to identify where your anxious thoughts are coming from. There's always a trigger for anxiety. In mental illness, depression is often, or not depression, but that major depressive disorder often goes along with anxiety, because you can imagine people who struggle from depression often have the thought of, because they can't do things and their body is sort of slowing down as a result of their mental illness, then they become anxious that they cannot do those things. So usually depression is paired up with anxiety, and that is absolutely normal. It's expected. But when it comes to dealing with anxiety can also result as if somebody has an anxiety, can be a mental illness in itself. So you can have anxiety disorder. And in that case, I would say if you are having anxiety where you can't function, you can't go to work, there's certain things that just freak you out to a point where you are unable to work, you are unable to perform tasks. Like I mentioned earlier with depression, you absolutely need to seek medical help. And usually they'll give you medication to cope with your anxiety. But if it's not anxiety that is not diagnosed, then I would really and strongly advise that you identify where your anxiety is coming from. And once you identify that, work on it. Work on, why is it that this thing is making me anxious? Why is it that work makes me anxious? It may be making you anxious because you are taking on way more than you can handle. And so if that's the case, again, systematically go through things and work through things one thing at a time. Sometimes people can actually give you anxiety. People have social anxiety. If it's that, you don't have to then go out and deal with a lot of people. I think the one thing that people struggling with mental illness fail to understand is that just like somebody would be given flucin or Corenza C to deal with flu, you also have to come up with ways that you're going to deal with your depression or your anxiety. It's the same way. If it means that you don't go outside and meet a lot of people because they give you social anxiety, don't do it. If it means that you have to cancel going to certain events because just thinking about that gives you anxiety, don't do it, because that is how you are putting coping mechanisms into into play in order for you to deal with your depression. So first of all, don't downplay yourself. And just because people are not speaking about your depression or your anxiety does not mean you need to downplay yourself. So one of the practical or more sustainable, there's also what we call relaxation therapy. It's just a breathing technique that helps people to deal with anxiety when it happens on the onset. Exactly where it happens, you deal with it. And it's basically lying down, or you sit on a chair, and it's called, I think, Jacobson's relaxation therapy. You can Google it and just see what to do. Breathing in and out is very important, particularly when you're having anxiety on the spot. Breathe in, breathe out. Take it easy. Remove yourself from situations that give you anxiety. Social media can give you anxiety because you look at what your friends are doing and you feel that you are not good enough, or that you are not doing what they are doing, and therefore you are useless. So anything that triggers you to have anxiety, number one, most important, identify it. And when you identify it, remove yourself from it. If it's thoughts, train yourself, train your thoughts. I think the biggest battle that people fight with mental illness is a fight against their brain. Guys, I'm really aware that this video is going to be too long, but I really do think that the information that I've provided is very, very important to dismantle stigmas that exist out there about mental illness, but also just to educate people about what mental illness is. Like I said, I'm more than happy to do a full video on, if you want me to just speak solely about self-confidence and low self-esteem, for example. If you want me to do a video on practical steps on dealing with anxiety or depression, a video dedicated to that. If you want me to make a video dedicated to how you actually get somebody to be taken in if they need medical help for their mental illness and they're not proactive about it, guys, I'm more than happy to give you the information. I need to thank you guys for watching this video. I really hope that you've learned a thing or two, and that if you were somebody that made people's lives difficult, people who had mental illness to be specific, you really need to ease up on that. You need to relax. You need to calm down. You need to understand that people are dealing with battles that nobody ever speaks about, or people don't really know. And so be kind, guys. Kindness could really go a long way when it comes to mental illness. And yeah, guys, I really hope you learned a thing or two. And I really hope that you do all the right things, and that is to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media platforms. I am Tumi on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm Tumi the First on Instagram. And obviously Tumi here on YouTube. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye.